Morayo stood beneath the lanterns, her silk gown glowing like trapped moonlight. She watched her groom, Kola, lean close to Abeni, the wedding planner. They were laughing softly. Too softly. Morayo's fingers curled into fists. She had paid for this wedding. She had chosen the flowers, the music, the gold-threaded curtains. Everything was hers. Including Kola. But his eyes? They belonged to someone else. Abeni brushed dust from her plain dress and smiled at something Kola said. Morayo felt fire rise in her chest. This girl from the backstreets thought she could take what was not hers. The city streets hummed with evening voices, but Morayo heard only her own heartbeat. She stepped forward, her shadow stretching long across the courtyard stones. Abeni looked up. Their eyes met. Morayo's smile was sharp as broken glass. She leaned toward her maid and whispered low, so only the night could hear. By dawn, one of you will be ruined. If you're watching this video, please like, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments where you're watching my folktale story from. I want to know how far it has traveled. The city never slept. It listened. Stone streets remembered footsteps. Balconies leaned over alleyways like old women whispering secrets. Courtyards echoed with the voices of lovers, merchants, and thieves. This was a city that forgot nothing. Abeni walked home slowly, her sandals clicking against the ancient stones. Above her, windows glowed with candlelight. Behind shutters, families ate dinner and argued and laughed. The city felt alive, watching her with 1,000 invisible eyes. She pulled her shawl tighter. Something felt wrong tonight. The air was too still. The shadows too deep. She passed the old well at the edge of the square. Water dripped somewhere below, steady as a heartbeat. Abeni paused. She had the strange feeling that the city was listening to her thoughts. Listening and waiting. A breeze stirred the leaves of the acacia tree. Abeni shivered. She did not know why. But as she turned the corner toward her small room, she whispered a prayer under her breath. The city, it seemed, had already made its choice. Abeni was born in the backstreets where the walls leaned close and the sun barely reached. Her mother washed clothes. Her father mended shoes. They had little, but they had dignity. Abeni learned early that trust was earned with sweat, not words. She worked hard. She kept her promises. She never lied. Slowly, people began to call her when they needed help. Weddings, funerals, festivals. Abeni planned them all. She became known for her quiet discipline and her kind heart. But there was one secret she kept locked inside. She loved Kola. She had loved him since the day he asked her to plan his wedding. He was gentle. He listened when people spoke. He did not treat her like a servant. And that was the problem. She could never have him. He belonged to Morayo, the daughter of the merchant lord. Abeni sat on her thin mattress that night, staring at the cracked ceiling. She whispered the truth to the darkness. I love him. And the darkness, like the city, heard everything. Kola stood at the window of his family's house, watching the city glow under the stars. Tomorrow, he would marry Morayo. It was the right thing to do. Her family had wealth. His family had honor. Together, they would be strong. But when he closed his eyes, he did not see Morayo's face. He saw Abeni's. Her quiet smile. Her steady hands. The way she tilted her head when she listened. Kola clenched his jaw. He was a man of duty. He would not betray his word. But his heart? His heart had already betrayed him. Earlier that evening, he had asked Abeni to stay until the wedding was over. I need someone I trust nearby, he had said. She had nodded and looked away quickly. Too quickly. Kola knew then. She felt it too. The pull. The impossible thing neither of them could name. He pressed his forehead against the cool stone wall. Duty over desire. Honor over truth. That was the way of men. But his eyes, no matter how hard he tried, kept searching for her in every room. Morayo sat before her mirror, brushing her hair with slow, angry strokes. She did not love Kola. Not really. She loved the idea of him. The handsome groom. The perfect wedding. The envy in other women's eyes. She loved the power. Marriage was a stage, and she was the star. But Abeni? Abeni was a shadow creeping into her spotlight. Morayo had seen the way Kola looked at the wedding planner. Soft. Curious. Alive. He never looked at Morayo that way. Her reflection stared back at her, cold and beautiful. She set down the brush. Love, she decided, was not something you earned. It was something you controlled. If Kola's heart wandered, she would cage it. If Abeni stood in her way, she would remove her. Morayo opened a small wooden box on her table. Inside was a folded cloth and a list of names. People who owed her favors. People who feared her family. She smiled. By tomorrow night, Abeni would be gone. And Kola would forget he ever knew her name. There was an old woman who lived by the well. Some said she was blind. Others said she saw too much. Children were afraid of her, but mothers brought her bread and asked for blessings. Abeni had seen her many times but never spoken to her. Until tonight. The old woman sat on the stone edge of the well, her face hidden beneath a gray shawl. She turned her head as Abeni approached. "You walk like someone carrying stones," the old woman said. Her voice was soft but sharp. Abeni froze. "I do not understand." The old woman laughed, low and dry. "The city exposes stolen love. Always has. Always will." Abeni's heart pounded. "I have stolen nothing." "Not yet," the old woman said. She reached out a wrinkled hand. "But you want to. I can smell it on you." Abeni stepped back. The old woman tilted her head. "You have a choice, girl. Step away now, or face the truth when it comes. The city does not forgive those who lie to themselves." Then she stood and walked into the shadows. Abeni stared at the dark water below. The choice was hers. The days before the wedding moved like a slow storm. Abeni and Morayo smiled at each other in public. But their smiles were knives. Abeni arranged flowers. Morayo watched her like a hawk. Abeni spoke to the musicians. Morayo stood close enough to hear every word. The servants whispered. They could feel the danger in the air. Kola moved between them like a man walking on ice. He praised Morayo's beauty. He thanked Abeni for her hard work. But his eyes gave him away. At night, Morayo paced her room. She could not sleep. Jealousy ate at her like termites in wood. Finally, she made a decision. She called for her maid, a thin woman named Ife. "Tonight," Morayo whispered, "we will go to the shrine outside the city. I need a blessing." Ife's eyes widened. "A blessing, my lady?" Morayo's smile was cold. "A protection. Against those who wish me harm." Ife nodded slowly. She knew what Morayo really meant. This was not a blessing. It was a curse. Morayo's plan was simple and cruel. She took a small pouch of gold coins from the wedding treasury. Then she hid it beneath Abeni's mattress while Abeni was out buying cloth. Morayo's hands trembled as she placed it there. Not from fear. From excitement. She whispered to Ife, "Tomorrow morning, we will discover it is missing. And we will search everywhere." Ife swallowed hard. "My lady, this is dangerous." "Dangerous?" Morayo laughed. No. This is justice. She wants what is mine. Now she will pay. The next morning, Morayo woke the household with a scream. The wedding gold is gone. People rushed from their rooms. Kola came running. Morayo wept real tears. Someone has stolen it. We must search every room. Abeni stood in the doorway, confused and afraid. Morayo pointed at her. Search her room first. She was the last one near the treasury yesterday. Abeni's face went pale. I did not take anything. But the guards were already walking toward her door. And Morayo smiled behind her handkerchief. The guards found the gold beneath Abeni's mattress. They held it up for everyone to see. Gasps filled the courtyard. Abeni shook her head, her voice breaking. I did not take it. I swear. Someone put it there. But no one believed her. Why would they? She was poor. She had access. And now she had the gold. Morayo covered her face and sobbed. I trusted her. I trusted her with everything. Kola stood frozen. His eyes moved between Morayo and Abeni. He wanted to believe Abeni. But the evidence was there. The doubt in his chest grew heavy as stone. Abeni looked at him, desperate. Kola, please. You know me. He opened his mouth. Then closed it. That silence hurt more than chains. The rumors spread through the city like wildfire. The wedding planner is a thief. The backstreet girl finally showed her true colors. Abeni sat alone in her room that night, head in her hands. She had been framed. And the worst part? The man she loved had doubted her. That wound cut deeper than any blade. Abeni could have run. She had nothing left in this city. No reputation. No trust. No future. But running felt like admitting guilt. And Abeni had never been a liar. So she stayed. That night, she wrapped a shawl around her shoulders and walked through the empty streets. Her feet carried her to the old well. The moon hung low and full. The water below was black as ink. Abeni knelt at the edge. Old woman, she whispered. Are you here? Silence. Then, from the shadows, the old woman appeared. She did not speak. She only pointed at the well. Abeni looked down. The water rippled, though there was no wind. What do I do? Abeni asked. The old woman's voice was quiet. You drink the truth. Or you drown in the lie. She handed Abeni a wooden cup. At midnight, the well shows what is hidden. But only to those brave enough to look. Abeni took the cup with shaking hands. The old woman faded into the dark. And Abeni was alone. Midnight was 1 hour away. At midnight, Abeni dipped the cup into the well. The water was cold and smelled like iron and earth. She lifted it to her lips and drank. It tasted bitter. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the water in the well began to glow. Abeni leaned forward and looked down. But she did not see her own face. She saw Morayo's. Morayo was standing in a dark room, whispering to her maid. She was holding the pouch of gold. She was smiling. Abeni's breath caught. The vision shifted. Now she saw the future. Morayo stood at the altar, wearing her wedding gown. But her reflection in the ceremonial bowl was twisted and ugly. The city watched. The city knew. Then the vision changed again. Abeni saw herself. She was walking away from the city gates, alone. Her back was straight. Her face was calm. She had lost everything. But she had kept her truth. The water went dark. Abeni sat back, tears streaming down her face. She understood now. The well did not lie. It showed intentions. Morayo's heart was poisoned. And Abeni's path led to loss. But she would walk it anyway. The next morning, something strange happened. The guards came to Abeni's door. But they did not arrest her. Instead, they told her the charges were dropped. Mistress Morayo said it was a misunderstanding, one guard said. She found the gold in another place. You are free. Abeni stared at them. Free? Yes. You may go. They left. Abeni stood in her doorway, confused. Why would Morayo let her go? Then she understood. Morayo did not need her in chains. She needed her humiliated. The damage was already done. Everyone in the city believed Abeni was a thief. Even if the charges vanished, the whispers would not. Abeni's name was ruined. That was enough. Across the courtyard, Morayo stood at her window, watching. She smiled to herself. It worked, she whispered. Abeni was destroyed without a single drop of blood. And tomorrow, Morayo would marry Kola in front of the entire city. No one would remember the wedding planner. Only the bride. Morayo turned from the window, humming softly. Victory tasted sweet. The wedding day arrived. The city exploded with color and sound. Drums thundered through the streets. Dancers spun in bright cloth. Children threw flower petals. Everyone came to see the marriage of Morayo and Kola. It was the grandest wedding the city had ever seen. Merchants closed their shops. Farmers left their fields. Even beggars lined the streets to watch. Abeni stood at the edge of the crowd, hidden beneath a gray shawl. She had decided to stay. Not for Kola. Not for Morayo. But for herself. She would see this through to the end. The procession began. Kola walked first, dressed in white robes embroidered with gold. He looked handsome. But his face was tight. Behind him came Morayo, carried on a platform by 6 men. She wore a gown that shimmered like water. Her head was high. Her smile was triumphant. The crowd cheered. And then Abeni saw her. The old woman. She stood in the middle of the crowd, still as stone. Her blind eyes seemed to stare straight at Morayo. Abeni's heart began to race. Something was about to happen. The ceremony took place in the great courtyard beneath the acacia tree. Elders sat in a circle. Drummers played softly. Kola and Morayo stood facing each other. The priest raised his hands and began to chant. Let the ancestors bless this union. Let the city bear witness. Let truth guide their hearts. Morayo's smile never faltered. Kola's jaw was clenched. The priest poured water into a ceremonial bowl made of polished bronze. This water reflects the soul, he said. Drink, and your intentions will be known to the ancestors. Kola drank first. The water was clear. The crowd murmured approval. Then it was Morayo's turn. She lifted the bowl to her lips. Her hands were steady. She drank. For a moment, nothing happened. The crowd waited. Then, deep below the courtyard, something stirred. The old well at the edge of the square began to tremble. Water sloshed over its stone edge. The ground beneath the ceremony shook. People gasped. The priest's eyes went wide. And the water in the ceremonial bowl began to darken. Slowly. Like ink spreading through milk. The water in the bowl turned black. The priest stumbled back. Morayo stared down at it, confused. Then her reflection appeared. But it was not her face. It was something twisted. Something cruel. The crowd leaned closer. Whispers spread like fire. What is that? Do you see it? Her face is changing. Morayo tried to smile, but her lips would not obey. The water rippled. And then the city spoke. Not with words, but with visions. The bowl showed everything. Morayo hiding the gold. Morayo whispering with her maid. Morayo smiling as the guards took Abeni away. Every lie. Every cruel thought. Every poisoned intention. The visions played for all to see. The elders stood. The crowd gasped. Kola's face went pale. He turned to Morayo, his voice barely a whisper. "What have you done?" Morayo's hands shook. The bowl slipped from her fingers and shattered on the ground. Black water spread across the stones like a stain. And for the first time in her life, Morayo had no words. The city had spoken. And it had told the truth. The silence broke. The crowd erupted in angry voices. She lied. She framed the wedding planner. She is not worthy. Morayo's face twisted in panic. She looked around wildly, searching for someone to save her. But everyone stepped back. Even her own family looked away in shame. The elders stood in judgment. One of them, an old man with a white beard, pointed at her. "You have dishonored this ceremony. You have dishonored this city." Morayo's voice came out high and desperate. "It was not my fault. She made me do it." She pointed at Abeni in the crowd. She wanted him. She was trying to steal him from me. I had to protect what was mine. But the crowd knew better. They had seen the visions. They had seen her heart. Abeni stood silent, her face calm. She did not defend herself. She did not need to. The truth had already spoken. Morayo fell to her knees, her beautiful gown pooling around her like spilled wine. "Please," she whispered. "Please forgive me." But the city does not forgive those who build their happiness on lies. Kola stood frozen, staring at the broken bowl. His mind raced. Everything he thought he knew had shattered in an instant. Morayo was not the woman he believed her to be. And Abeni, the woman he had doubted, had been innocent all along. The priest turned to him. "The ceremony cannot continue. The ancestors have rejected this union." Kola looked at Morayo. She was still on her knees, crying. He felt pity. But not love. He had never truly loved her. He had loved the idea of duty. Of doing the right thing. But what was right about marrying someone whose heart was poisoned? He turned to the elders. "I cannot marry her." The crowd gasped. Morayo's head shot up. "Kola, no. Please." But Kola's voice was steady. "I will not build my life on a lie. I will not marry someone who hurts the innocent to get what she wants." He removed the ceremonial beads from his neck and placed them on the ground. "This wedding is over." The drums stopped. The dancers stood still. And Kola walked away from the altar, leaving Morayo alone in the center of the courtyard. Morayo's fall was swift and brutal. Her family, ashamed of the public disgrace, sent her away to live with distant relatives in another city. Her friends, who had envied her beauty and wealth, now whispered about her cruelty. The servants who had feared her now spoke freely about the things she had done. Her name became a warning. Mothers told their daughters, "Do not be like Morayo. Beauty without truth is a house built on sand." The wedding gifts were returned. The decorations were taken down. The grand celebration became a story of caution. And Morayo, who had wanted to be remembered as the most beautiful bride, was remembered instead as the woman who tried to steal love and lost everything. On the day she left the city, she walked through the same streets where she had once been celebrated. But now, people turned away. Children pointed. Old women shook their heads. Morayo pulled her shawl over her face and walked faster. The city had judged her. And the city never forgot. Abeni watched Morayo leave from her window. She felt no joy. Only sadness. She had won nothing. Her name was cleared, yes. But Kola was not hers to claim. He had been promised to another. And even though that promise was broken, Abeni knew the truth. She could not build her happiness on someone else's ruin. That night, Kola came to her door. He knocked softly. "Abeni, please. I need to speak with you." She opened the door but did not invite him in. "What is it?" His eyes were full of regret. "I am sorry. I doubted you. I should have trusted you." Abeni nodded. "Yes. You should have. Can you forgive me?" She looked at him for a long moment. "I can forgive you, Kola. But I cannot be with you. Not now. Not like this." His face fell. "Why?" "Because love built on the ashes of someone else's shame will never grow strong. You need time. I need time. And this city needs to heal." She stepped back and closed the door gently. Kola stood outside, alone. And Abeni packed her small bag. By dawn, she was gone. The city changed after that day. Weddings became quieter, simpler. People stopped caring so much about gold and silk and spectacle. They cared more about truth. About trust. About the intentions behind the vows. The elders made a new rule. Every bride and groom had to drink from the ceremonial bowl. And the bowl was filled with water from the old well. The well that reflected intentions. The well that could not lie. Some couples were afraid. But the honest ones had nothing to fear. And slowly, the city became known not for its grand celebrations, but for its honest hearts. Kola did not marry again. He threw himself into his work, helping his family's business grow. But at night, he thought of Abeni. He wondered where she had gone. He wondered if she was safe. He wondered if she would ever come back. Months passed. Then a year. And one morning, Kola went to the old well to draw water. And there, sitting on the stone edge, was a familiar figure. His heart stopped. It was her. Abeni had returned. Abeni looked different. Her skin was darker from the sun. Her eyes were calmer. She had spent the year traveling to other cities, learning new things, helping other people plan their celebrations. She had grown. Kola stood frozen, the water bucket forgotten in his hand. "Abeni," he whispered. She turned and smiled. Not the shy smile from before. A stronger one. "Hello, Kola." He walked closer slowly, afraid she might disappear. "You came back." "Yes." "Why?" She looked at the well, then back at him. "Because I was running from the truth. And I am tired of running." Kola's throat tightened. "I looked for you. I asked everyone. No one knew where you went. I needed to be alone. To remember who I was before all of this." She stood up. "But now I know." Kola stepped closer. Then he did something that surprised them both. He knelt. Right there, in front of the well, in front of the city. "I am not asking you to be mine," he said quietly. "I am asking if I can earn the chance to know you. Truly. Honestly. With no lies between us." Abeni's eyes filled with tears. She reached out her hand. "Stand up, Kola. Love is not about kneeling. It is about walking together." Kola and Abeni did not rush. They did not announce their love to the city. They simply began again. Slowly. Honestly. They met in the market and talked about small things. The weather. The price of yams. The new well being built on the east side. They walked through the city together, and people watched with curiosity. Some whispered. Some smiled. But no one interfered. This was their story to write. Months passed. Kola brought Abeni flowers. Not expensive ones. Just wildflowers from the road. Abeni cooked him meals. Simple food. Rice and stew. Nothing fancy. They laughed. They argued. They learned each other's flaws and loved them anyway. And one day, Kola asked her, "Will you marry me? Not because of duty. Not because of family. But because I choose you, and you choose me." Abeni said yes. The wedding was small. No gold. No silk. No grand procession. Just two people standing before the elders, drinking from the ceremonial bowl. The water was clear. As clear as the sky after rain. And when they looked into it, they saw only truth. The old well, silent for so long, rippled once. Then went still. The city watched. And it was satisfied. After the wedding, people began to notice something strange. No one could remember the old woman's face. They remembered her voice. Her warnings. Her presence by the well. But when they tried to picture her, their minds went blank. Children asked their mothers, who was the blind woman? And the mothers could not answer. Some said she was a spirit sent by the ancestors. Others said she was the city itself, taking human form. Abeni went to the well one evening, hoping to see her. To thank her. But the old woman never appeared. Only the water remained. Still and deep and true. Abeni knelt and whispered, "Thank you. Wherever you are." The wind stirred the leaves of the acacia tree. And for just a moment, Abeni thought she heard a voice. Soft and dry, like old paper. "You chose truth. That is all I ever asked." Abeni smiled. She touched the cool stone of the well and stood. The old woman was gone. But her lesson remained. And the city, as always, remembered. Kola and Abeni's wedding was the opposite of the one that had been planned for him and Morayo. There were no musicians. No dancers. No crowds pressing in to see. Just close friends. Family. And the elders who had witnessed the truth. They stood beneath the acacia tree as the sun set. The light was soft and golden. Abeni wore a simple white dress. Kola wore a plain tunic. No gold thread. No jewels. Just cloth and honesty. The priest poured water from the old well into the ceremonial bowl. He smiled. This is how it should be. Two hearts. No lies. No stolen love. Only choice. Kola and Abeni drank together. The water was cool and clean. The elders nodded in approval. And when the ceremony ended, there was no grand celebration. Just a quiet meal. Laughter. Stories. And the feeling of peace that comes when people stop pretending. The city watched from its balconies and doorways. And for the first time in a long time, the city felt proud. This was love the way it was meant to be. Quiet. Strong. And true. So what is the lesson of this story? In great cities, love that is stolen collapses loudly. It falls like a house built on sand, and everyone hears the crash. But love that is chosen with integrity? Love built on truth and patience? That love builds quietly. And it lasts. Morayo wanted power. She wanted control. She thought love was something to be owned. And in the end, she lost everything. Abeni wanted nothing but honesty. She walked away when staying would have been easier. She chose truth over comfort. And in the end, the truth brought her home. The city still tells this story. Mothers tell it to their daughters. Fathers tell it to their sons. And the old well still sits in the square, its water clear and cold, reflecting only what is real. So I ask you now, as the story comes to an end. If you were Abeni, would you have stayed silent? Or would you have chosen truth, even when it cost you everything? I want to know your answer. Because every story is like a candle. It can light the path for someone else. God bless you, and may courage guide your hands. Meanwhile, on the final screen, I am leaving you with one of the channel's most beloved folktales. I am sure you will love it. Thank you for staying with me until this moment.